Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Hands On. My name's Alana, and I'm from the Innovation Cluster. For those of you that aren't familiar with the Innovation Cluster, we are a not-for-profit organization that supports startups working in innovation. We do so by offering advisory services, access to partners, and workshops such as this one. So we encourage you to apply if you have an innovative idea or a startup working in technology, and you can do that at www.innovationcluster.ca. So today's session will be recorded and you are going to have access to it at a later date. We will also have a Q&A after the presentation. So if you think of anything, you can save it for the end and you can just place your questions into the chat box when I enable it. So again, welcome to Hands On, from goals to wins with Legendary Coaching. So today facilitating the session is Ryan Smith, the product director with Legendary Coaching. So some of the learning objectives today are understanding the concept of 3 spaces of organization, utilizing the Legendary 6 framework for goal setting, identifying your learning style, and understanding the 3 stages of change and its impact. So I'm going to hand it over to Ryan now.
All right. Thank you, Alana. Hello, everyone. So good to see you guys. Thank you for tuning in. So as Alana said, my name's Ryan, and I'm part of the team at Legendary Coaching. And to start things off, before I go any further, I'll get the elephant out of the room, specifically this room. I know it looks very much like I'm locked up in an institution. I assure you that is not the case. That is the joys of lockdown when you have to convert a spare room on the fly into your home office, which I'm sure some of you know the joys and struggles of doing that. Feel free to put a message in the chat. Who here thinks they have the coolest home office or the best home office and why? I'd love to see that. Might as well celebrate something about being at home, right? But I'm really excited today to help you guys with this webinar. And a quick note about us as a company, Legendary Coaching, is that we do, of course, oh, I see someone there. Jack loves his home office. What's awesome about it, Jack? Let me know something. But at Legendary Coaching, of course, as the name implies, we do leadership coaching, communication coaching for teams and organizations. And so, and then here we go. Oh, they're coming in. Lots of open space, no interruptions. That's awesome. Oh, someone's a drum player and has to listen to drums all the time in their office, of course. Nice setup in the basement. Awesome. That's cool. I'm still trying to figure out mine. I think I need a few more personal touches here. And you can't quite tell by the video, but I'm actually pretty tall. So finding a good seat is always a huge pain for me. Something that actually makes me feel comfortable where I'm not hunched over the whole time. So, but Legendary Coaching, of course, circling back to that, some of the ways that, of course, we would interact with clients would be webinars, workshops. We do one-on-one coaching, and pre-COVID, we would do corporate retreats. And so those are just some of the ways that we engage with our clients. And we like to say one of our mantras is helping build better people, teams, and organizations together. And so a lot of things about what we do is equipping business leaders, equipping their teams with the tools they need for better collaboration, better execution and alignment in their organizations. And so I'm personally passionate about helping people reach the fullness of their potential. And of course, one of the ways that that's really cool is when I get to come alongside someone, help them set goals and help them see them achieve and reach those goals, which is what we're talking about today. And so Alana mentioned some of the learning objectives. Some of the things we're going to go through with you guys today will be, one, understanding your personal kind of preferences and leanings in the area of personality, in the area of change, and how that can affect when you're setting goals and how you carry them through, because everyone will have their own different challenges, so to speak, and their different triggers or their different motivations that will help and strengthen the way you pursue a goal. And we're also going to look at some of the different roadblocks. That's why we're looking, for example, at change, because seasons of change are a big thing that can throw off our goals, and just setting a new goal is a change. And we're going to equip you guys with a lot of different tools and ways to think about things differently, both in a personal context for goals and organizationally, if you're looking for change initiatives or if you're looking to push forward with something with your team and have been either having some struggles with that or just looking for better ways to do it. So that's what we're going to go through today. Now, an interesting thing, the first time I led this workshop for the cluster, I think it might have been 2 years at this point. It feels crazy to say that, time flies, but we did it, I'm looking at the date here, and we did it almost around this date. In a couple days, there'll be a very important date as it relates to goals. So can anyone tell me why? I know that's very open there. I just want to see what you guys can think of. Why is in a couple days, what would be significant about that when it comes to setting goals? We'll see what people come up with here. I know I didn't give you guys much for that, but I'm just curious. End of the month, Blue Monday. What is that? I am interested of what Blue Monday is. Ah. Most depressing day of the year. First reports about COVID. Some good guesses, guys. So, setting goals needs a timeline. How long it takes to set a new routine. There we go, Kelly. You're getting closer with that. So in 2 days, it'll be the 21st, officially 3 weeks, right into the new year. 21 days makes a habit. There you go. So studies have shown that, of course, a lot of people, new year, right? We love setting new goals, very popular topic right now. Studies have shown that 3 weeks is about the longest people go, funny enough, is that it takes time to set a new habit. And a lot of people, just when they're at that point of setting a new habit, actually quit when they're setting goals. So it's a very interesting thing, is just when your body's at the point and your brain's at the point of starting to set those new pathways, studies have shown that most people give up their New Year's resolutions after 3 weeks. So that's an interesting thing. And I'm hoping that with the tools we give you guys today, we can set you on a better path for that. So a lot of the problem, though, is that when we set goals, we often don't start from the right foundation, and we don't have the proper systems in place in our life to support pursuing that goal. So with that said, I'm going to transition to my PowerPoint, and I'm going to start talking more about what I mean with that and about setting systems here. So let's see if this works here. All right, perfect. So I hope everyone can see that. So from goals to wins, that is the name of our webinar today. And I'm going to take a quick second here to see if I can bring up my video panel. There it is, perfect. So what do I mean by setting systems? Well, as Alana said with one of the learning objectives, I want to introduce you guys to a concept that we call the 3 spaces. If you've done any work or if you've ever attended any of our webinars with Legendary Coaching, you've probably heard about the 3 spaces. So we like to say that when it comes to organizations, all of the moving parts, all the different things that comprise what make that up, that we can categorize that into 3 different categories. The first would be what we call the transactional space. And that's what we do, how we do it. So that would be your policies, your procedures, all the tangible parts of your operations, so to speak. And then there's this other side, what we call the relational space, who we are, why we matter. Those would be kind of your soft assets, your brand, your vision, values, and mission, but also, most importantly, your people and the quality of the relationships that they have in your organization. And so a lot of times, what happens in organizations is we kind of see these sides as 2 competing silos, that I can't invest in one without taking away from the other. And that's where we start to get things like internal conflicts happening, companies making decisions that are incongruent with their values. And I also want you to think about this from a personal perspective as well, because we're going to look at it from that side of things, that on the personal space, a lot of times we reach the new year and we know that it's kind of the trendy thing to do. I should be thinking about new goals. I should be thinking about new things I want to set. And we kind of move forward with things we think we should do or think we need to do, or maybe even there's numbers, maybe your balance sheets, or there's different things that show you, I got to reach these goals this year. And we set goals, but we don't actually connect it to the who and the why, the things that we're passionate about. And that's where you also get the internal conflicts and the hindrance to motivation that would sometimes derail a goal. And so I want to suggest to you that these sides can work together more often than not. But a lot of times we don't stop to look and connect that of, okay, why am I doing this? What's important to me about this beyond just making more money, beyond hitting my targets, beyond where I think I need to be. And when we're able to find that connection, that's where we get the creative space. That's where we get innovative, creative ideas. So let me give you an example here on the personal side. Let's say that New Year comes, and I'll use this one a lot in the webinar because it's one of the most typical new goals. Is I want to get in better shape. I want to lift more weight. I want to lose weight, right? Some sort of fitness goal. Let's say a lot of times I can get caught up in, oh, I want to get in better shape. Well, I have to lose X amount of pounds, right? And I pick some arbitrary number that I think I need to be at. And well, I guess I got to run, right? That's what people do, but I hate running. So, I'm not saying flee from things that are difficult or uncomfortable, but what I'm saying is before I decide that I must do that, maybe there's another way I could look at this. Maybe all of a sudden I put some more thought into it, and I'm not the biggest fitness person, but I love community. I love spending time with people. So I'm like, you know what? Why don't I join the local community volleyball league? That'll be fun. And I like the connection that happens with people there. And we get together afterwards and we have lots of fun and we spur each other on, right? So what if I join that? And instead of thinking I'm going to do it every day they meet, they meet twice a week. Instead, I just say, you know what, for now, my next step, I'm going to join once a week. I'm going to make sure once a week I'm at the volleyball league. I'm there, I'm getting active, where all of a sudden I'm getting the same activity I need to burn those calories, but I'm not throwing some arbitrary thing in there, and I'm connecting it to my passion to be with people. That's where you activate the reward centers of your brain, and it starts to think differently about setting goals. And that's also in an organizational context where you get greater trust, confidence, empowerment from your people on the personal side, especially the confidence and empowerment part, where you feel way more equipped to pursue your goal. Because a lot of times, especially with leaders, especially in the business side of things, it's like, well, you just, you discipline yourself. You got to push past the discomfort. And I agree with that. Very important skills to develop. However, why not work with your brain, with your body's natural processes whenever possible to activate the reward centers, to go with motivation, to go with things that excite you and that you get passionate about, if possible. But you got to start getting creative and saying that, okay, these two can work together, whether it be my organization or whether it be myself personally. So that's what I'm talking about. Starting from a place of what are you passionate about? Break it down to the most basic areas. And one thing I encourage people to do is, if you don't have a personal mission, values, and vision, values, and mission statement, why not try making one up? See what comes out of that. What kinds of things do I love to do? I'm passionate about helping people reach the fullness of their potential. So in one way, when I'm setting new goals, I'm going to try to come back to that as much as I can. Because I know if I can really start from that place, not just in a cutesy way, connecting it, but if I can really start in that place, I know that that's going to keep me aligned to my mission, to my goal, a lot more often than not. And there's a tool that we like to use with leaders in their organizations, and we call it the Legendary Six. And this is just a way to think about it when you're setting goals organizationally, team-based, and you'll get some nuggets personally out of this as well. But the first part is we call your vision. That's the passion for why we do what we do, essentially. What is your desired future? And then that is protected and aligned through your values. What kinds of things are important to you, whether it be integrity, whether it be fun, whether it be excellence, whatever that looks like, what are the values? And then they connect that vision to your mission. So that's where you get to the place of, okay, we're a company, we sell tires, we make ice cream, right? But there's always a why behind that. There's a greater vision that informs why you sell tires, why you make ice cream, whatever that looks like. It's the plan to share your passion and the needs that need to be fulfilled for your stakeholders, for your clients, customers, you name it. Then when that all is firmly established, then of course we have the goals, right? Oh, I went too far. Perfect. The goals, what we're talking about today, right? The fun stuff. We love setting our 1, 3, 5 year goals, or 6-month goals, anything like that. That's how your mission will be realized, is based on what we do. Here are some major things that we have to accomplish. Then you can break that down even further to your objectives. So if my goal is to make X amount of sales this year, then what things need to be checked off for me to accomplish that? Here's the next important part. What are your action steps, specifically your next right step? A lot of times with goals, people try to do too much too quickly. So if I want to get in the gym and I all of a sudden say that, I want to bench 100 pounds, I'm just throwing that number out there. I want to bench 100 pounds, but I've never done that before. Well, how well is that going to work out for me? Probably not that well, unless I have a level of willpower that surpasses most people. It probably won't work that well. Or if I say I've never been to the gym before and I want to start going 4 times a week, well, that's a massive increase, and that probably won't work well. And we get focused so much on the big part of what we have to do. A lot of times when you procrastinate, your brain, what it's not wanting to do is the first 10% of whatever you need to do. Usually when you get past that first 10%, your body starts to become more comfortable with it. So basically, let's break it down. The point is, what are small things we can start doing? So maybe my first checkpoint or action item should be, why don't I just get a membership, right? Instead of jumping ahead, why don't I just get my gym membership first of all? Then when I've done that, okay, let me schedule my first session to the gym, right? Or maybe I should plan out a generic workout routine, right? Break it down into those steps. And then before I get to the final part, a lot of times, personally or in organizations, you can see we've got those 6 points there, but the number 6 actually illustrates something in and of itself in this case, where you see the vision, values, and mission, the top of the 6. That's almost like the spine or backbone for why you do what you do, and it's what anchors you, it's what grounds you. But a lot of times that loop, that's the ongoing piece that happens in our life, in our organizations, and in the busyness and stress of everyday life. A lot of times we get caught up in that ongoing process and it becomes disconnected from the why, the vision, values, and mission. And studies have shown that your vision drifts every 30 days in organizations. So chances are, if you're not constantly casting that vision for yourself, for your team, they've forgotten why they do what they do and are kind of in that place of just collecting a paycheck, which as leaders of organizations, we certainly don't want that. Because passion is always going to speak louder in what we do. It's going to bring the most creative ideas. It's going to be the most attractive and enthusiastic pieces for salespeople and clients interacting with them. It's going to be where our team comes together to become more than the sum of its parts. But it's the nature of so many things to do on the task list. It gets hard, right? We get caught up in the goals, objectives, action steps. And there is an exciting part of that because we're checking off boxes, we're accomplishing things, but it becomes this never-ending cycle of the do's, and we need to keep it connected. And how we do that is this piece we call celebrating the wins. That's what we call it, legendary coaching. You can use whatever terminology works for you. However, the whole point is that we have some regular kind of review process and celebration of our desired success and the relationships that got it there. And here's the kicker, we connect it to what the values are. So let's say you have a company and you sell athletic shoes. And maybe one of your values is helping people push past their limits, right? And achieve greatness, right? Well, if I walk into your store and I walk out feeling inspired to chase my dreams, even if I didn't buy a pair of shoes, that's a win. And maybe I didn't buy one then, but guaranteed you've won a brand champion for life if you're able to create that experience. That is a win. However, a lot of times we get focused, we measure the wins transactionally, which is important. Don't get me wrong, that's important. However, what I'm saying is, how do we incorporate a process that starts to activate the reward centers, casts vision, and helps connect people to the why on a consistent basis? Because it's going to drift every 30 days. So we sell athletic shoes. Hey guys, I just got this amazing kind of review or feedback from a customer who came in. He didn't buy anything, but he just loved the space. He said he got so pumped and excited when he came into the storefront, was like, man, I just want to get back to the gym. He's going to be thinking about your company now. Every time he thinks about motivation, every time he thinks about pushing past things, that's a massive win, guys. Because not only is it good for our bottom line, is it good for our brand awareness, but that's why we got into this. That's why we were excited to sell athletic shoes. It wasn't about the shoes. It was about that feeling we first got when we discovered a sport we love, when we got to the gym and found out we could do more than we thought we could do. That's the whole process of celebrating the wins for your organization. And that is what's going to empower you personally and your team when chasing goals. So on a regular basis, whatever that looks like for you, you can incorporate it into weekly meetings, maybe it's a board, maybe you have like a memo board that you post things on, whatever that looks like for your company culture or for yourself, maybe sticky notes at your computer. Celebrate the wins. And we've got to become really good at it, kind of like this guy.
Still a chance here. It's Willingham, into the box. Willingham shoots. Goal! That was magic. This is history in the making. Sweet dreams, 98. Willingham tucks it in and puts the championship to bed. No one ever saw this coming.
As long as soccer players celebrate with a slide, you can count on Geico saving folks money. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
So I have a pretty goofy sense of humor. Hopefully some of you guys got a kick out of that. I always love that video every time I see it. But the whole point is become good at celebrating the wins. Not, once again, not in a cutesy way, but connecting your team and communicating to them. Guys, this is why we do this, okay? We're not letting ourselves off the hook. We still work hard. We still push forward. But this is important for us to know why and to know what really are the wins. So I wanted to start it off on that foundation, the perspective and mindset for it, and how we start to go from the right foundation. Now, I think it would be good to review SMART goals, because this is a few good tips for how we set good goals, ones that we can measure, ones that we can follow through on. Maybe some of you have heard SMART goals. If you haven't, it'll be great kind of nugget for you. So the first thing when we set a goal is we want it to be specific. Not just I want to get in better shape, right? But I want to lose X amount of pounds. I want to go to the gym X amount of days. I want to be able to lift X amount of pounds. It has to be something that is narrow in scope, that connects to the greater purpose. Because if it's just get in shape, how are we going to know? And that connects to the measurable piece. We have to be able to measure our success or our progress when we're setting a goal. So whenever you're first trying to set a new goal, make sure that you have it narrow enough in scope that it's specific and that you know how will we measure it. And there might be multiple ways that you measure it, as long as you have some sort of piece on that. The next one, is it achievable? Is this something I can realistically achieve? That's where I got to that piece that we often try to do way too much, way too fast. So if I've never bench pressed before and I say, I want to make it to 300 pounds this year, that's a lot. I don't know if I'll realistically be able to achieve that unless I have really good genes. Or if I want to do 4 or 5 times a week in the gym, that's going to be tough. The next thing, is it relevant? Oh, I should circle back. One more piece I should say on the achievable and the relevance piece. This is a big one, is set a goal that you actually have control over. A big problem we see is often people set goals that they have influence over, but not control. So example of that, let's say you set a goal that, okay, guys, this year in sales, we want to make X amount of dollars. Well, you actually do not have control over that, because ultimately you can't control whether your clients or customers will make a buying decision. What you can control is how many cold calls you're going to make. You can say that, hey, this month, every month, I'm going to make X amount of calls. And that will influence your desired future of making more sales, if that makes sense. So if you see that where it's like, okay, guys, we really want to make more sales, don't make that the goal. Make as many goals as you can that will influence that you have control over. So that's probably one of the biggest faults we see when people set goals, is they choose things that they really can't control. So ask yourself, when you set that goal, can I control this? Like outside of external factors, or do I have at least a good amount of control on this? Because of course something crazy could happen, right? But do I have a relevant amount of control? And then on the relevance piece, does this even matter to our organization, right? That's where you come back to, of course, making money is relevant to any organization, right? To stay viable. But there might be other goals, operational goals, that when you circle back to the vision, is it relevant with who you are as a company? Does it matter? And then time bound. So this is a really important piece as well, is try to set a time frame for which you want to achieve this goal, because that's going to create a bit of a sense of urgency. Some people try to do this way too fast. Once again, go back to the achievable piece. Can you actually achieve this? But try as much as possible to have a time frame for which you'll achieve this. And if you reach your time frame and you're not there, you can always readjust, but at least try to have something to that effect, that, okay, within 6 months, within 1 year, we want to achieve this. And there's going to be a piece I'll share with you at the end that might cause you to think a little differently about time frames in particular when it comes to setting goals. So we'll get to that shortly. But for now, those are SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So next thing I want to get to is a diagnostic that I'm going to give you some time to do, which we call the learning styles. You will have received it, as Alana said, in an email beforehand. We've also included it in the chat. And the great thing about this document is it can be filled out right from your computer. I will note that the results do not auto-calculate, in the sense that as you're checking off your answers, it won't tally up the numbers for you at the end. You'll have to do that, but you can check off the different boxes. And why am I talking to you about learning styles? Because often, like this picture, that seems like a very academic thing, right? What does that have to really do with me setting goals? Your learning style encompasses far more than just of an academic nature in a classroom, because whenever we're setting a new goal, that involves the learning of different skills, patterns of behavior, points of comfort, adjusting to a new environment. And that's going to affect how your brain interacts with the new goal you're setting and with the change state, because that might, even though it's a new change that may excite you, to a certain degree, your brain will process that a certain way, that there's going to be discomforts in the new that's coming, in the transition that comes. So if you understand your learning style, it can help you develop some strategies as you're pursuing your goal that's going to help you. And we'll see that in a second here. But for now, if you guys have the diagnostic, I'll give you a few minutes to take that, to fill that up. And then if you don't finish in time, that's okay. You can always go back. But right now, we'll just give you a few minutes to fill that out. right, guys, we'll do one more minute. And no need to rush if you're not close to finishing yet. Okay, everyone. If you're not done, that's okay. Feel free to continue filling it out if you'd like as I'm talking. But if you have trouble doing that, I know some of you, depending on how you learn, might have trouble filling it out as I'm talking. If you do, that's okay. You can always go back later and complete it, and then go back over your results and what you know from what I'm about to share here. So, learning styles in action. Life lesson, right? Mom says the stove can burn you. Who here remembers those coil stoves, right? I certainly remember those when I was a kid. But if we look at the different learning styles and how they would respond to that lesson, what do the auditory learners do? Mom tells you don't touch it, it can hurt you. They listen, right? The visual learners, they see someone touching it, getting burned, or they see it glowing red and they're like, that probably doesn't look good. They don't touch it. And then there's people like me, the kinesthetic learners, who touched it, but only once. So we're looking at the three primary kinds of learning styles. Studies are starting to show that you could break it down even further into other types of groups. But right now we're looking at the three major ways that our brain takes in and processes information. So the first would be auditory, that we learn best by hearing things. And this is actually, they're going to be somewhere in the middle when it comes to the different learning styles of how many people engage in this type. So what I'm looking at as I go through each style is things that are challenging for you and things that are going to be at your best, so that you can think about some strategies for when I'm pursuing a goal. What's going to help me learn? What's going to help me engage my brain best when I'm going through those different things? So things that might be challenging for an auditory learner: reading silently for prolonged periods of time. You could be easily distracted by noise, following instructions that are not verbal, taking time tests that must be read or written, and concentrating on written words. But what's going to help you a lot is if you look at things, the ideal environment, when interacting with others in a listening speaking activity. So for a goal, that might be relevant in the sense that maybe I need to activate more focus groups. Maybe I need to have a partner that I talk this through with when I'm having challenges. Hearing the information to absorb it. So maybe you want to learn something, having audiobooks, having podcasts that you can listen to. Like to read assignments out loud, working with a partner or group, or sitting in a place to avoid auditory distractions. So for example, either having a little bit of just ambient noise or no noise. That's definitely one of the guys I work with. He struggles very much with that. Then visual learners. This is the highest percent of the population who have visual as their number one learning style. So, which is very interesting because in a lot of different, whether it be academic methods or even methods in the workplace, we don't utilize visual as much as we could. So visual learners could sometimes also be easily distracted by noise. Maintaining eye contact when talking to people can help. May have difficulty focusing while listening to an explanation. Having a person talk too fast, not being able to take notes, or may struggle with verbal directions. So chances are, if you are giving instructions to your team, chances are most of them are visual learners. If possible, try to engage them in a visual way that will help them with their work. They will prefer using pictures, images, mind maps. I always encourage clients who do have this to color coordinate things if possible. highlighting parts of a report, talking face to face with people. Those are all going to be things that will help you succeed. And then the final one, which is my learning style, is kinesthetic. People, we learn best by hands-on activity, by being able to feel things. This is the smallest percentage of the population who have it as their number one. So what'll be challenging, learning in an environment that lacks hands-on experience, recalling what was seen or heard, expressing emotions without physical movements or gestures. That's probably, if you've noticed that I use my hands a lot when I talk. Sticking with one activity for a long period of time. This is a very interesting thing for kinesthetic learners. If you notice that you might have employees or team members, or even you yourself, when you're working, that you really quickly want to move on to something else, you might be a kinesthetic learner. So kinesthetic learners will do best doing a physical hands-on activity, sit near a door someplace where you can get up and move around, take breaks often, work while standing, or doing things like chewing gum. I often find that engaging my body when I'm working, so I might sit for a while, then I might stand for a while. I almost always have music on and I'm tapping my feet to it when I'm working. I know that that's going to help me, and especially with my productivity, or especially when I want to learn something or be creative. Here's another interesting thing, is if you work in a profession where you don't necessarily get to move around a lot, maybe an office setting, something like that. Another big thing for kinesthetic learners is that they need to be able to wrap their brain around something, in the sense of sometimes being able to struggle through it or wrestle through it and problem solve, break it down in your head will help you, in the sense that, for example, if I'm learning a new board game, don't read me the instructions. Let's just play and let my brain wrestle with that. And once I get it, I won't forget. That's just the way I work with things. So if you're a kinesthetic learner, sometimes being able to just let something marinate in your brain and problem solve in that way, or teaching yourself something, chances are kinesthetic learners, you'll be very good at teaching yourself stuff, better than most people. Because once your brain is able to wrestle with it, then you're going to learn it and have a lot more, have it solidified in your brain more. So I just want to go over those things, because those are just some strategies based on your learning style that you might be able to make some notes with setting new goals to help you stay focused. The final thing I want to talk about, as I mentioned before, is change and transition, because of course, setting a new goal will involve a big change or transition, or if you're going through that, it could derail a goal and could very much affect your ability to move forward. So there's another diagnostic we do, which we will not do today. We like to call it the 4 animals. It's a personality diagnostic, and it lines up to DISC, if you've ever done DISC. I'll explain which animal lines up to each, but I'd encourage you to listen, and if one sounds like you, just pay attention to how you respond to change, because everyone responds to change in different ways. And when we break down change, we can often look at it as 3 zones. So this little graph here, you can see on the vertical part there, we have percentage of people. And then on the horizontal, that would be as time goes on. This is how people respond to change typically, that the ending or letting go phase at the beginning of when you have to let go of the old way of doing things, most people are in that zone. They don't like it, of course. And then you can see as time goes on that that number starts to go down and down. Well, the middle, the neutral, that's you've let go of the old, but you're not quite at the new yet. That's probably where a lot of people are at right now, even with the pandemic, and starting to move into the new beginning, into the green space. But most people are still probably in that neutral zone when it comes to dealing with changes in the pandemic, personally, at your home, in your workspace, depending on how long you've been working from a mobile environment or a remote environment. Maybe you're right in the green there. Maybe you were already really used to working at home before this happened. But a lot of people, when this first happened, they were all really in the blue and really didn't like moving away from the old way of doing things. Now we see that at the beginning of change, there's a very small percentage of people, if you look at the top left corner, in the green, who just jump on the change right away. They're okay with it. They can very easily move from one state to the next. We call those people the 3%ers. Those are the people who are the innovators, the people who really easily transition or move between different states. And they often end up being very influential, very innovative, and creative in their ideas because they're able to adapt that way. As time goes on, most people move into that new beginning, the state of excitement, or at least acceptance of the new, of where we're going. However, though, there's a very small percentage of people who never get to the new beginning zone, evidenced by the blue in the bottom right there. That they're the people who, when it comes to an organization, for example, and implemented changes, chances are those people are either going to leave when a big change happens at your organization. They will stay and be a toxic personality, and there might be a very small percentage who they don't like it, but they're just a very loyal team member, and they have good character and they just stick around. So just as I said, review, the ending is the letting go, losing of the old way. And that's where we experience the most emotional turmoil and the negative kind of emotions, so to speak. The neutral zone, that's the unknown gap. You don't know exactly where you're going. And once again, that's where your emotions can kind of derail you. This is where you can really get off pace with setting a goal. And especially a good question to ask yourself when you're pursuing a goal or moving towards something is, do I feel stagnant right now? Do I feel stuck? Do I feel really uncomfortable of being in the in-between, or kind of that state of limbo? If you do, that's the neutral zone. And that's a place where you really want to start to engage that vision again and really start to be intentional, because that's where the goal can kind of fall off, so to speak. And then finally, the new beginning. That's the sense of arrival, embracing the change. You're energetic. It's exciting because you've reached the new. And sometimes when you're pursuing a goal, sometimes that process goes on and on and on. It's almost like let go of something, neutral. Okay, you've achieved it. And then what's the next step in the goal? Let go of something, middle, achieved it. And you keep getting that sense of excitement as you push forward. So here's how some different personalities respond to change. One of the personalities in our diagnostic is called the lion. That would be a D on the DISC diagnostic. Lions are natural leaders. They like pushing forward with things. They like making progress. Often words that are important to them are goals, moving forward. Sometimes they can appear a little bit blunt. If you've ever talked to someone and got the sense that they wanted you to just hurry up and get to the point, you may have been talking to a lion. But what lions will struggle with in change, and kind of listen through the lens of, is this me? They will not be very patient with the transition. Lions have the least amount of patience for change, particularly the in-between. They need to remember change is transactional and relational. So it's not just about achieving the next state, but I have to make sure my people are okay and transitioning in the process, that I'm not just pushing an agenda forward and burning bridges along the way. It takes time. Important to envision the desired benefits and help facilitate momentum. So lions, with your teams, when you're moving forward through change, make sure cast that vision. Make sure people see the why of this new goal, or why we're pushing forward. Hey guys, this is what we're going to benefit from as we move forward. This is what we're aiming for. This is the desired future and what it's going to look like. The beaver, those are your organizational admin people. They love their checklists. They love graphs. They love stats. Very good organizational and planning people. Very good with that. So the one thing though is that they'll worry with change because they like consistency and predictability. That's also why they love things like lists and numbers, because you can quantify it, you can calculate it, you can use it to see a picture of where you're going. So beavers need to stretch themselves of realizing sometimes in change in the middle zone, that predictability is lacking, and I have to find more ways to ask more questions, be more curious, think outside the box. And then identify the wins. Keep looking for the wins, because beavers are great gap fillers in the sense that they'll ask a lot of questions and they'll poke holes in things because they have a desire for excellence. So it's important, if you have a member on your team who always asks questions, or it feels like they're always pointing out faults, before you get upset with them, ask them why they do that. Because they might be a beaver, and it might be that they're just, I just want the best product possible. And I feel like this isn't up to the standard we do things in. That's kind of the motivation behind people with that personality type. They would be a C on the DISC diagnostic, if you know that. Golden retrievers, they would be an S on the DISC diagnostic, and they can sometimes get caught up in the drama and concerns for people. They are extremely loyal, very relational. If you've met a golden retriever, chances are they're just a really easygoing, warm, friendly person. Sometimes they might be a little quiet and keep to themselves. Sometimes they might be the person who really doesn't like conflict. But they're always going to be the encouragement person. They might be the person in the office when someone's having a bad day that they go to them first and say, hey, you doing okay? Everything good? But where it becomes a problem in change is they sometimes get too caught up in that and might unknowingly enable certain emotions or pour more fuel on the fire, so to speak. So sometimes golden retriever, you got to focus on not being so nice and listen to people, be empathetic, but help them move along as well. Don't help them stay stuck in a place in the sense of like, oh yeah, that must be really hard. Man, that sucks, this change. I mean, we don't even know where we're going. That's great, but at some point you have to say, look, I know this is tough, but we're going to do this. Sometimes you have to engage those sides of hey, like, or for yourself of, I know this is tough. I know I don't know where we're going, but I need to find ways to move forward and focus on the good things that are happening. And then the otter. This would be an I on the DISC diagnostic. They are the fun, social, spontaneous, free-spirited people. They're most at ease with transition, but here's the problem. They have trouble following new processes, especially when it comes to rules, when it comes to policies. They really don't like that. And so they'll be excited, oh yeah, we're doing something new. But where it might become a problem is, hey, like, you need to fill out those reports. I know we didn't have to do them before, and I know this exciting place we're going is great, but with that comes some new things that we all have to do and follow. And you got to kind of get with the program, right? And follow the processes and procedures. So important otters that you might get excited with the change, but remember there's other structural pieces that need to be followed, even though that's not the most exciting thing. So maybe you heard some characteristics of yourself, different personalities, depending on where your personality lines up. You might be really high into one kind of zone, or you might have pieces of multiple. So maybe a couple of those animals you really resonated with. The key is that as I was speaking, you heard parts of like, yep, that's me, that's me. Okay, with change, I need to be aware of these things, because those things will be your triggers, so to speak. So if you're pushing forward, like for example, the otters will really struggle with, they'll love starting a goal, finishing a goal might be hard, because you'll get excited about the next shiny thing. Beavers might struggle with a goal when hardships come or unpredictable things come, because they're great at planning out the goal and, yep, I'm going to do this every day, I'm going to follow that, but then something unexpected happens and it's like, whoa, I can't deal with that. What do I do? Right? So everyone has their own challenges. They have their own personal triggers, which will make pursuing a goal harder than others. The key is that you realize that everyone has that. What are mine? What are the things that make it difficult for me? So I'm going to finish with one more story here, and then we'll leave time for a few questions. So learning from seals. So some of the biggest breakthroughs we know in the area of brain science and psychology actually was pioneered in the Army to varying degrees. And so this all started with Navy SEALs, and maybe some of us have heard the stories of how brutal their training regimen is. And it's not just the physical taxation. It's not just all the running and the push-ups and the heavy backpacks and stuff like that, because of what they have to go through. SEALs are actually trained mentally and psychologically. That's the hardest part of the training. When you talk to anyone who's been through that, is that they go through all these situations and exercises that create a simulation of war or a simulation of your life being in danger. So for example, they might put you in the pool, and after you've had to tread water for an incredibly long period of time, then someone's going to jump on you and try to pull you underwater. And the idea is, how do you react with that? How do you stay calm? How do you train your brain to think differently? So what they were finding is all these super athletes who were just, you know, physical specimens were failing and were not able to complete the training because they didn't have that mental toughness. And yet you'd find these skinny, weak guys who were making it and who were succeeding. And so they thought, you know, why is this happening? So they invested a ton of money to figure out what's going on mentally, and how do we find better ways to mentally train our troops so that they're not just physically fit, but mentally as well, and can make it through that training and can think quickly and be at peace during those crazy situations. And what they found is this whole process of what they call micro goals was highly effective in helping people push forward and achieve what they wanted and reach success. A lot of times with goals, we like to think very long off, you know, 1, 3, 5-year goals. And I'm not saying there's not a place for those, there is. However, what I want you to start thinking about differently is maybe I need to think smaller with goals, in the sense that they would get their troops to set goals of, I will make it to lunchtime today. That's it. I'm not thinking of anything beyond that. I will not quit before lunchtime today. And when I hit lunchtime, then I will set a new goal. They found that to be highly effective in helping them push through hardships, because what happens is the bigger in scope you get with that goal, one, the less your brain can focus on one particular task at hand, and the more overwhelming it might feel, because you're taking in so much more information. And once again, if you set micro goals, then you can activate the brain's reward centers a lot more often, because it's like, boom, I got it. Boom, I got it. Yes, yes. That's where, whether you're a list person or not, that's where you get that feeling of excitement or satisfaction, like, yes, got that done. Yes, got that done. So I want you to start thinking about, maybe I can break up my goals into smaller micro goals, or where are the opportunities to do this? Because I realize that obviously we're not training to be SEALs, of course. And sometimes based on what you do, you don't always have the luxury to break it up like that, or the time to do so. However, whenever there is opportunity, I would encourage you to start thinking about, okay, how could I break this up into smaller goals and focus on the task at hand, be a little more present, so to speak. I'm a very future-oriented person. I love to think way off into the future and think very big picture about things. But sometimes I need to pull myself down, be a little more present, and focus on, okay, what needs to get done right now? What needs to get done next? That's the next right steps that we talked about. So with that said, guys, I just wanted to give you guys that quick review. Legendary 6, vision, values, and mission. That's the spine, goals, objectives, action steps, and the celebrating the wins, connecting it, starting from that right place of passion and the why behind what goal you're pursuing. And then with that said, we will now leave a few minutes for question and answer. And I will stop my PowerPoint right now. Perfect. Okay. So I know I went through a lot of stuff there. And okay, so question time.
So if anybody has any questions, you can just put them in the chat, and then we have a couple of minutes to answer some of them. If you think of anything after we're finished today, then Ryan's going to provide his contact information so you guys can get in touch if you think of anything.
Yes, I'll do that at the end of the Q&A. So if I don't get to your questions, someone asked, can you email us the 6 so we can print it? Yes, I can do that. Would the best way, Alana, for me be to send it to you?
Yeah, so I'm going to ask for a copy of your PowerPoint if possible, and then we'll make sure that that information is given to everybody today.
Perfect. So I'll send you guys kind of a condensed version of the PowerPoint, because it's a large file without the videos and other stuff like that. But it will have Legendary 6 in there. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the encouragement. Yeah, any other questions we have? We got some time. I got time to go through a question or two here. I want to honor time, of course, with the webinar, but I know I went through a lot of stuff too. So some of you might be 24-hour processors and need to send me an email after. Okay, great. Thank you very much, guys. Some people got to get on the run. How come so many seals get clubbed if they are so tough? What do you mean by that, Martin? Let's see here. Oh, Canadian seal club joke. Okay, I guess I'm not I guess I'm not in the crowd for that one. You're welcome, Kelly. Yep, there's always a learning curve with the different personalities. Micro goals really work. Yeah, awesome, Connie. Thank you.
Okay, maybe for sake of time, Ryan will
Yeah.
just start wrapping it up. But again, if
Okay.
anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to Ryan and I can connect
Yeah.
you. I'll make sure to send the link to everybody and a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. But thank you very much, everybody, for coming today and
Yeah.
spending your lunch hour with us. And thank you so much, Ryan, for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you guys can see my contact there, ryan@legendarycoaching.ca, and our website, legendarycoaching.ca. Also, if you liked our stuff, we have a LinkedIn page. Feel free to give us a follow. We're always posting great articles and stuff on there. But for the contact info, it's ryan@legendarycoaching.ca.
Perfect. Great. Thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you guys so much.